All right, we are live. So, hello and welcome, guys, to the second episode of our Web Mentor Webinars Initiative. And this is Madhav, your friend, the Lean Programmer. And today I have Neha. And I'm super excited to tell you for those who are new here. The Web Mentors the Webinars Initiative is basically to upskill the student community so that we guys can bring experts to you, and you guys can learn each week or each fortnight, and just never stop learning. So I'll hand over the mic to one of the co-organizers, Arpita, and over to you, Arpita. I think Arpita is having some network issues. No problem. So I'll just start. So basically, today we have Neha here. Neha, I'm so glad to have you here. And trust me, guys, Neha is my go-to person whenever I have some design-related problems or queries or questions. She was the one who made in VIT. She was the head of design at VIT Animations Club, and she was the one who made the logo for Code to Express, and till now she has been a part of many. She has contributed to uh, a lot of in like organizations, open source organizations, and NGOs and stuff. So I'm super glad to have you here, Neha. And just a request to all the audience present here. Uh, Again, as I always say in each and every single one of my webinar, that be an active learner, don't be a passive learner. So the difference between an active learner and a passive learner is that a passive learner would just see the webinars and would just hear the podcasts and do nothing. But an active learner instead will try to follow along. An active learner will try to explore the things which were taught in the webinars. He or she will keep exploring stuff, do the things himself or herself, and that's how we learn. So today Neha is going to teach you basics of design, and she is going to have a hands-on session on a beautiful design on Adobe Illustrator, and it's going to be really amazing. And just an advice, try to follow along and it will be super helpful. And whenever you have any doubt, any doubt as small as it like any simplest doubt, don't hesitate to ask. Just put it up on the live chat, and at the end of the session, either me or one of the co-organizers will ask all those questions to Neha. So, and once again, thanks a lot for being here on the weekend, and thanks a lot, Neha, for being here. Handing over the stage to you, Neha.
Okay. So, hello everyone. I'm glad you could make it. Hope you're having a good day. And yeah, before we begin, I just want to go through everything that's going to happen today. First, I'm going to give you a presentation, a short one on design as such, just general stuff, how to get started with design and all of those things. And then I want you guys to keep asking questions, as Madhav said, throughout the session, whenever you want. And then we're going to make something. I'm going to take you through my process of making that thing. I'm going to tell you what that is when we get there. And then in the end, we could have questions. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. Just a second. Okay. So, can you guys, is this visible, Mother? Okay. I'm assuming that it is.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Okay.
visible. You can just press on the hide button in the
All right.
below. Yeah.
Got it. So, design, the big word on the screen. So many definitions, so many explanations. But simply put, it's planning how something is going to look, how something is going to work. That's basically it. And even though it sounds simple, there are so many things that goes on when you design something. So at this point, I want to tell you three important things about design. One, design is not just a standalone subject, which it's not nothing like that. It's integrated with science, psychology, tech, and as arts, everything has design in it. And especially psychology, there are so many topics that are present in psychology and design. So many things like uh, functions of color and how they make you feel and all of that. Secondly, I want to emphasize on this. Design is not just something you just slap on an end product, or you just decorate something outside. That is not what design is. It's something that has to be integrated in how something is made, how an idea is created. Let me give you an example. Let's take cars for example. If someone wants to design for the Indian market, they have to take into consideration climatic conditions, how the roads are, and what kind of people use cars and how often they use it. So all of this user studies, we call it user studies, happens before the designer creates even a simple drawing, a 2D sketch of the car, and then they make it three-dimensional, and then they run it in simulations in software, and only after everything succeeds and there are no imminent issues, you move on to manufacturing. And if this step is not taken, it could lead to really bad consequences, like cars breaking down because of humidity, or uh, so many things can happen. And that brings me to the third point. Bad design can have many repercussions. And to illustrate that point, I'm going to show you three examples of why we need design, or specifically good design. Let's look at the first picture. It's a green colored stop sign. So, what is the point of a road sign? It's to capture our attention and give us a little bit of information that could be very critical, uh, could even be the matter of life or death, like this stop sign. And what does this sign do? It does not capture our attention, and it gives us mixed signals, because green is generally associated with go. I mean, that's how we have been conditioned from a young age. So this is a very ineffective and potentially dangerous consequence of no design or bad design. Let's look at this second image. It's an elevator panel, and there is a down arrow and an up arrow. But do you understand which button corresponds to which arrow? And just imagine you're in a hurry and you really want to go up. Which arrow do you press? So small little bits of uh, these kind of things, they can make a big difference. And the third one, let me tell you what they intend to convey before we discuss what it looks like. They want to say diversity and inclusion gives engagement. But when you take a glance at this image, you just see die. So I don't know what they're not able to convey what they want to convey in an instant. So that is a few examples of why we need design. So let me show you how good design looks. Google Google products are amazing. We're so used to Google products being amazing that now we just start expecting Google products to have that standard. And yeah, they do continuously meet standards. Let's take the example of Google Maps. Many of us are dependent on this app a lot. Okay, not now, but we were. Um, just imagine taking the entire map of the world and putting it in this tiny rectangle and expecting users to navigate it. It's a Herculean task, but Google does it. And there are so many things you can do with a map. And Let me tell you one thing here. It's something that people say in UI design. The lesser number of clicks or taps you need to reach the very end of a website, the leaf node, if you would say. The lesser the number of taps or clicks, the better. So look what Google does here. From just the map, you can go to all the buttons that you use regularly, and then with a swipe you can reach all their capabilities. So I think that is brilliant. And if you notice here, these are the two buttons that we use most regularly, so that is very accessible, like right next to where you place your thumb. And there are a lot of guidelines that Google uses, and what they've done along the years is that they've created a whole design language, and it's called material design. And I really, really want you all to check it out. I'm obsessed with it. It's brilliant, and go read about it. Material design, that's the name. So let's move on. I want to show you, I want to emphasize on how varied the field of design is, and how design is a part of so many aspects of our lives. From designing car parts to designing watches to designing clothes, this all comes under design. Manufacturing it may be one thing, but the ideation, the creation, everything is a part of design. And I am not sure what you all are interested in, but I'm sure you guys have to do your research. Check if you're interested in visual design or interaction design. There's a lot of discrepancy, so you guys do that. So let's move on to who is a designer. People just assume that designers are born with a magical skill that enables them to create beautiful things. But just like any other discipline, design can be and has to be learned and developed along the way. So a designer does so many things. They conduct research, they study people, they take ideas, they take surveys, and then they start creating from inputs from all of that research. And then they take it to the tech people, or if they're designing a product, they take it to people who can make it. They look at technical limitations or any of that, and then only the product gets made. So you can see how important a designer is. And people, many people think that, if you're a designer you can design anything, but that is not the case. You cannot expect a UI designer to know how to design clothes, so stuff like that. And designers, they're very, as I said before, they're very important in the manufacturing process of a product. So let me give you an example. um, Take for example the Google Assistant. So the people who designed that, they had a very big task of showing the users only what they need to do, and hiding all the clockwork and the back end, because that's not necessary. That might even confuse the user. And they put in so much thought into the Google Assistant. You may be wondering why it's called the Google Assistant and not a name like Alexa or Siri. So they wanted Google Assistant to be gender neutral. So there's a reason behind that too. Let's move on. Actually, yeah, let's move. Becoming a better slash a designer. Um, these are just things that I learned along the way, from 11th standard to here, and I thought I'd just share it with you. So, first off, master design fundamentals. This is, I think, the most important step because it shapes you as a designer and it shapes the way how you think. And you know how each designer has their own way of looking at stuff and all of that. So this this step includes collecting all your information, studying and going through history of design and reading about contemporary design, and also practicing with design principles and elements like um, color theory, composition, and combinations of different shapes, contrasts, and all of that. So this is, according to me, the most important step, and you have to take as much time as you can, go slow, be patient, and at one point you will feel, okay, I get stuff. I think I can move on to the next step. Expose yourself to good design. This this also shapes how you think. When you're just starting out and you're really impressed by a graphic designer that uses contrast in all his work, maybe you get inspired by that, maybe you take that from him, and then maybe you take some elements from other little pieces of work you see. You can't call this copying. Copying would be taking something and then claiming it to be your own, but you can call it inspiration. Step 3: create, compare, evaluate. So after you look at good design, you'll be inspired. Start making your own stuff. Um, Maybe you can, even for practice, you can recreate some things that your favorite designers have done. Maybe you can talk to them. You can ask them how they did it, and all of that. And step 3 and 4 are like kind of linked together. As you create, show it to people, show it to your family, show it to your friends, and whatever feedback you get, just take it and analyze it. And I also want you to give feedback, you to critique things, and all whoever asks you to. One important thing, when you give feedback, try to separate it from your opinion. For example, if you see a green dress, you may not like it because you don't like the color green, but that's just your opinion. Try to give constructive feedback, and even if someone gives you opinionated and negative-ish feedback, try to pick out all the areas where you can improve. And let's go to the fifth step: take up projects. Um, This may look like step 3, but it's kind of different. When you do a project, you tend to dive into a certain field and do a lot of research because it might be for someone, or maybe it's a personal project, but it has to be about a central topic. So the more projects you do, the more expertise you get, and you can put that up on your portfolio, and people look at that and think, wow, so many projects, and they'll come to you, they'll ask you to do stuff, and then after that it's just a cycle of good projects, good clients, and so on. And build your network, keep in touch with people you work with, and yeah, do that. And step 6: find your own style. This is the hardest step of all. Um, that's what separates you from the millions of designers out there. You know how, um, let's say, Christopher Nolan movies are. They're extremely complicated, and you have to be like really careful and note all of the details. Only then can you understand the movie. and that's his style. That's how he makes movies. So find something that's unique to you and let it reflect in your work, and that will set you apart. Trust me, it will. And something that I've noticed among designers and artists, you gotta have confidence and patience and perseverance, and you're good to go. So I think with that, we're done with our presentation. So if you guys have any questions, you can ask me. I'm just gonna have some water. Okay, all right. Let's move on to our hands-on session. Um, so what we're gonna do today is read a small design brief that I've made up myself and try to make a logo for reading the brief and probably even apply it on a product. Let's see if we have time for that. Um, you may be wondering what design brief means. It's generally what a designer collects before starting on a project. Um, if you compare it to the software development cycle, you can say it's equivalent to the requirements phase. I have an image of a sample design brief over here. Um, you can see they collect a lot of details, and if they have existing logos, if they have a tagline, and the kind of competition and all of that. So I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't really have time. Let me read out this design brief. So Florian, a flower boutique, needs a logo. They've given us two keywords, elegant and simple, and they want a logo. Um, I'm just going to take you through how I create logos, a very high level demo because I don't have much time. I generally take a long time. I mean, 2 to 3 days to come up with a proper logo. But for now, I'll just like go through steps really quickly. I've done my homework, obviously, so I'm gonna be taking you guys through that, and also simultaneously covering some tools in Illustrator that I use a lot. So if you guys want to follow along, you can. I'll be going slowly. So yeah, let's get started. Um, First step: evaluate existing brand, if any. So if they ask you to rebrand their business, that step would be necessary. Maybe you can take elements from their existing branding. Maybe you can take some colors. Maybe you can take things that they emphasized on. But we don't have that step because we don't have an existing brand. So research industry. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go to my browser and let's research flower. Oh, okay, logo. And just have an idea. It's just for an idea of how logos of flower boutiques look like. Obviously, they have a lot of flowers, and they use a lot of hand lettered or cursive or sans serif fonts, and they're they're all pretty. Um, I see a lot of pink and reds and warm colors. So these are all things that I pick up by just looking at images. Normally, I would do a lot more research. I take and like keep some logos and artboard and just analyze them, pick colors. But for now, I'm just looking at logos. I really like this one. Looks beautiful, but it's a template. So let's move on to step two. Step three, sorry. Where will the logo be used? Um, I'm guessing these people would need a visiting card. Maybe they have a website, so on that. Maybe if they make flyers or something, they would use it on that. Um, that's step four. Make sketches of concepts. So I did make sketches. So maybe if you could show my screen right now. Mother,
Yeah, yeah, you're on the screen now.
okay. Is this visible?
Yes, it's visible. A little more up.
Okay.
Yep, perfect.
So, as you can see, it's just a very rough compilation of just thoughts and stuff that I saw. There's literally just images of flowers, and I've written the word in a lot of fonts, and I have serif and I have sans serif, and there's a little bit of hand lettering here, and I really like this. And I'm gonna keep it simple and elegant, as they said. So I kind of came up with this as the thing, final thing that I wanted to create on Illustrator. So let's create this. And when you're making a logo, just do the same thing. Just whatever you think of, draw it. And you need a bigger page. This is just an example. You need a lot more pages to sketch out your ideas, combine elements, and yeah, let's start creating. Before I start, a very quick um, demo of the tools and Illustrator. So this is an artboard. It's like a canvas. You can draw stuff on it. You can even edit artboards with this. You can even create new artboards with this artboard tool. Shortcut is Shift O. Let me show you. I'm making. I can turn it. I can name it here. I can even move existing artboards, but I'm not going to do that. And I can delete that. So that was artboard tool. And to leave the tool, escape. To leave any tool and go back to the default tool, escape. This is the selection tool. Let me just draw something to show how it works. Uh, Selection tool, V. With this you can move around objects. You can transform them. You can rotate them. This is just a mouse pointer, if you would call it. And I forgot to tell you one thing. In Illustrator, all the objects are vectors. It's a vector design application. And the difference between a vector and normal raster images, in raster images, each individual pixel value is recorded. That's the info stored in that image file. But when you have vectors, you have information like points of the stroke and fill color. So that is why you can scale up vectors however much you want, because end of the day it's just information that can be manipulated. But when pixel values are manipulated, you get a lot of distortion and noise. So that's why when you enlarge a JPEG image, it looks kind of pixelated. So let's get back to the tools. This is a direct selection tool. The previous one was a black arrow. This one is a white arrow. And what you can do with the direct selection tool is manipulate the anchor points directly. Anchor points are the points in the edge of a shape. I think they're the least number of points needed to create that shape. So you can select these points directly with this tool. So let me see what happens when I delete that. It becomes a semicircle. So you necessarily need that point for this shape to look like this. Um, what are these handles? These are called Bezier curve handles. And Bezier curves are like, they are the ones that calculate the angle which the stroke has to take to go from this point to this point. So I can change that by just dragging the handle like that. So now you have a um, mm, non-primary shape, and I just did that by dragging these handles. And the next tool I want to talk to you about is the type tool. It's going to be useful for us today. Sorry, it's really small. Okay, I typed hello. Um, you can adjust the size just like a normal object in Illustrator, and the shortcut to adjust the size on the keyboard is Control Shift greater than or lesser than sign. And you can edit all of the characteristics of the type in the character panel and the paragraph panel. Two important typography terms. One is the line height. Let me type another line. Line height is the space between each line in a paragraph. You can increase that over here, but I'm gonna keep it default. And kerning is the space between each letter in a word. So there, you can see it increase. And I'm not gonna change it now. The text size is over here. You can change it here. And all of the other tools are not required right now. Paragraph tools, you can change the alignment, and you can change the space between paragraphs and all of that. We don't want to use that here either. Um, the next tool is the eraser and knife tool. Eraser tool is here, and knife tool is under eraser tool. If it's not there, you can find it in the all tools section over here. And by the way, this is a layout that I personalized. You can also do that by just selecting the thing which you like the most and then getting rid of some tools and probably aligning them. And then you can name them by clicking on new workspace. Mm. Let's look at the eraser tool. Shift E. Let me erase this shape. And it splits the shape into two shapes. I really like how Illustrator does that. It doesn't remain as one shape. So eraser does that, and what knife does is essentially the same, but it doesn't create this white huge line over here. A knife is to just split shapes into two. When you're coloring and all of that. Um, Yes, that's the basic introduction. And along, as I make the logo, I'll be telling you guys all the tools I use. Um, so let's type the word Florian. So I did a little bit of homework. I picked out a few fonts that I liked. I really liked this one. It looks really pretty. This is free only for personal use. I'm not gonna publish this project anywhere. It's called Simple Monologue. Um, and if you guys are gonna, commercially do a project, make sure you purchase all the licenses of all the assets you use. Um, yeah. So we have this. Let's make copies of this. And how I did that is pressed Alt and click and drag. It's very helpful. So let's make three versions. Let's have a serif. I like Playfair display a lot. And generally I increase the kerning wherever I can. I do it because I really think um, fonts look nice like that. I don't like how this F is staying together. Okay, now let's look at some other font. This was another free font. I like it too. So this is what I do. I'd pick a bunch of fonts. I'll decide okay which one suits the project more. So I'm just gonna keep all of these right here. So let's move. So every logo has two parts: the logo mark and the logo type. The logo type is the text. The logo mark is the symbol or something that accompanies it. Generally, the designers make rules on how logos can be used, um, and they may even decide to play around with it and just like break some rules, but elegantly, if you understand what I mean. So today we're going to try and make a logo mark and a logo type separately, but let's see how it goes. So I really like this one. So I'm going to try and focus on this. I'm still going to keep these two here on the side and reduce the size a little bit. And to maintain proportions, hold shift and drag. You'll see what happens if I don't. This happens. Please don't do this. It's like one of the biggest mistakes people make when they work with type. Um, I love this font. Okay, so look at this F. It looks like petals. So what I do like instinctively is put some more petals here. So let's do that. Let's create some petals. So now I'm gonna demonstrate to you guys the pen tool. What is the pen tool? So if you remember, I told you guys you can edit the anchor points of the shape using the direct selection tool. The pen tool can create shapes you by placing anchor points and then changing the angles between the points. So let me show you. Sorry, I'm just going to delete this. Please. So I place one point. I'm going to place another point, and if I want it to be in the same uh, axis, I'm going to press shift, click and drag, and you see a semicircle forming. It's not exactly a semicircle. We can fix that later. And if you notice what's happening, Illustrator is trying to predict a gradual curve to the next point that I may place. So if I do that, that happens. If I don't want this curve, I can just click on this point again and it just becomes a straight line. Okay, and I think I forgot to tell you guys about the fill and stroke, so let me do that. So look at this shape and look at this area over here. So currently it's filled with black and the stroke is empty. And how you change that up is double click on the stroke panel, create, pick in color, and you'll have a stroke. You can't see it because it's really small. So let me increase the size to something like that. Yeah. So if you want to change those up, exchange stroke and fill colors, you do that. Sorry, select and do that, and this happens. And there's a default fill and stroke, white and black. So that's just to quickly revert to defaults. So that was fill and stroke. Yeah, we were going to create a petal, so let's do that. I'm going to create half of the petal, and then I'll reflect it and make one petal. So let me create one half of the petal. Let me fill it with black for now. And how I reflect objects is transform, and you have a lot of options here. You can do any of this, but I just use it for reflect. And you can make a copy. You can even preview it. So now we have a copy of that half petal. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to place it right next to each other. And that pink line you saw is because I switched on smart guides. So it just estimates like the nearest point, the nearest parallel line, and it just shows for our use. I'm gonna turn off the stroke here. We don't want stroke. And let me place it together. Now these are two different objects. I want to make them one. So how I do that is I'd go to this tool called shape modes, and if you see the icons, they're pretty self-explanatory. You can fuse shapes, you can subtract the upper shape from the below one, you can find the common area of shapes, you can subtract the common area of shapes, and you can do all of that with the stroke also. So for now, I'm going to fuse them together. So now it's one shape. Let me see if there is a sharp angle here. There isn't. So yeah, we're good. So now we have a symmetrical petal. Um, I'm gonna take it here and see if I can match the shape of the petal with how the F looks. Yeah, I think that looks good. I'm gonna rotate it a little bit. And we're going to try and make 1, 2, 3 more petals like this. So I want you to notice on what axis this object rotates. It rotates on the center point, the point intersection point of all of these lines that would connect the opposite um, bounding box points. But with this tool, the rotate tool, we can change that axis. Let's say you want the object to rotate around this point over here. So if you click and drag it, it'll move around that axis. So I want to make duplicates of this. So I'm going to just press Alt and click. Yeah. So another shortcut I want you guys to know, Control D. It repeats the action you just performed on the selected object. So Control D, Control D. So now we have a decent looking flower-ish shape along with the F. So I like how that looks. Now I want to make something over here. It looks empty over here. I'm probably going to make a leaf. So let me draw a leaf with the pen tool. It's just a simple leaf. No big deal. Maybe I'll make it a little thicker and shorter. Okay. So I'm going to let me change the color or maybe the opacity so that you can see what's going on underneath. Um, so that's how it looks. I think the angle is fine. The angle that this ascends into. But I think I want a little gap here. I don't want it to touch. So I'm gonna draw a shape that resembles this. Okay, the leaf is too big. I like that. Yeah. So I'm gonna draw a shape that looks like that outlines this ascender. Something like that. And okay, it doesn't look perfect. So I'm gonna take my direct selection tool and adjust a little bit. I'm not going to focus on too many details because we don't have time. We're already late. And I'm going to subtract this one, which is on top, from this. So let's select both. And if I click that, now we have a nice little gap. Yeah, that looks okay. Now we have this. Let's move on to colors. When I hear the words elegant and simple, I immediately think of pastel colors. Uh, let me Google it. Let me look for pastel shades. And you have so many options, and you don't need to worry about copying or anything. These are all just free to use. No one's gonna say anything if you pick anything. So I already picked one, which I liked, and it's this one. And I remember seeing a lot of pinks, and although generally I wouldn't go along with the trend, I really liked it. So maybe I'll go with the reds, and I might have one contrasting color. So every time I pick a palette, I make a square, and I color these squares with the colors that I want to use. So that I'm using selection and eyedropper. Eyedropper is over here. Here. I is the shortcut. This one. And there is the lighter shade is missing from this, so I'm just going to copy this and change the fill color to maybe over here. And if you see in the color wheel, green is directly opposite to red, and that's called a complementary color. When you study color theory, you will find out all about that. I like this green. So this is what I've finalized on right now. It's an analogous, sorry, wait, I'm just gonna move this up. 4 analogous colors and 1 contrasting color. So let me quickly fill this. Green for the leaf, obviously. And I want a sort of gradient from going up to down. So maybe I'll fill each petal with each shade of red. And we end up with this. So I'm just going to group this, Control G. Now they are all one under one group. You can move them together. This is also going to be grouped. So yeah, now we have step 5. We've done step 5. We've digitalized. Maybe refining will take some more time, but yeah, this is how much we're gonna do today. And I went ahead and made a little visiting card. So this is the front, this is the back, and I have like really transparent-ish flowers on the background, and I like how it frames the information in the middle of the card. And this is a logo mark that I created out of the thing we made just now. We don't have time today. It's already 52, I guess. Need some time for the questions. So all I did was I took this F, and the ascender over here is similar to the one over here. So I just put the leaf. Let me show you. Let me zoom. Oops, sorry. So I just stuck the leaf on this ascender, and it kind of looks like a whole unit with a flower and a leaf. I like that. So, as I said before, logo, mark, and type are two elements of a logo. They can be used separately, but in our case, you can't just take this part away from the rest of the logo, because then it would just be Lorian with a leaf. That doesn't make sense. So I made a separate mark. So yeah, that's it for today. And I also did one more thing. These were the things that I was experimenting with before. Um, Let me show you. I added a bit of, those things in the middle of the flowers. I don't know what they forgot what they're called. And I also stuck with the serif font, and I made a little different shaped flower over here. And I also made a mock-up of another design. I used slightly different colors. And you can do these kind of things on Photoshop. And this is how you present your ideas to your clients. So it looks realistic and all that. So yeah, I think we're done for today. And yeah, other
Hey Neha, that was super amazing. I just loved the designs, and it was so cool. I mean, I'm definitely going to follow this webinar after this is after the recorded session to learn myself. So yeah, this was really cool. So now we will, for let's say 10-15 minutes, we will I received a lot of questions during the webinar, and uh, it's going to be challenging for you to be answering all of them in the given time frame. But yeah, let's
let's
try it
try.
out. All right. So, and even before going that, again, I just loved the logo of Florian. That was so
I'm
amazing.
glad. One
All right.
last thing before we go
Mhm.
into the questions.
Yeah.
I have something for you guys to take away. It's just a summary of everything I said. It looks a bit cute. That's the only difference. Um, I think there's a link in the description to this video. Is that so, Madam?
Yeah. I'll just tell the link as well. In the description, you can find the link, which is bit.ly/webm design. So our speaker here has made a guide for you guys to follow along. I mean, to start designing and where you can get the design inspirations and all those things. It's really an amazing PDF, and I was the lucky one to view it first. So. Uh, So it was amazing. So yeah, I've put the link in the in the description as well, and in the on the screen you can right now watch it on the screen. It will be written https:/bit.ly/webmdesign, and you can just go there and you can see the PDF. It's really cool.
Okay, is that a question? Okay.
Yeah. I think Arpita will be taking forward now for the questions. Arpita, are you on the stage? Can you hear me, Arpita?
Uh, yes, Madhav, I'm here.
Great. I'll hand over the mic to Arpita now, and let's proceed with the questions.
Okay.
Okay, the first question we have is for a creative designer, what is the flow chart to be followed?
Okay. Um, I'm going a creative designer in this. Let me assume that he's talking about a graphic designer. Um, Whenever you start a project, as I said, it's similar to the steps we followed in the logo design exercise that we just did. Do a bit of research about the client, about the person who you're making it for, or if it's a personal project, do a bit of research about the topic. If it's for a movement or a poster you're going to carry and display all across town, do a bit of research about the movement, about what people's opinions are, and then um, take a piece of paper and pencil, sketch, draw all your ideas, and combine, experiment, and finalize a few ideas, and then maybe you can digitalize it. You can finalize more than one idea if you have time, or else just pick one and digitalize it. And before you publish it, get feedback from relevant people, and see if you can correct something, and then put it up wherever you want.
Uh, so the next question we have is, can you explain how you used all those tools in designing your portfolio? How important and effective are these for a career in graphic design?
Okay. So let me tell you what people look for in a portfolio. They look for mainly your skills. It might be your skills in a particular software, or just how you use different elements and shapes and pictures. They look for proficiency in your sorry, not proficiency. They look for awareness about things around you. If you're putting those things in your design, if you're designing related to the current context, so they look for all of those things. And sometimes they don't prioritize software as such. They are okay with just sketches and all of that. And it depends on who is looking at your portfolio. And for a career in design, yes, tools are definitely important. The whole Adobe suite is great, but if you don't have money, you can use stuff like Procreate. No, I think Procreate also needs money. There's GIMP, and yeah, you can use trials. Yeah, that's it.
So the next question we have here is, are there any courses online for about choosing suitable color background? And also please mention the software you use for design.
Yeah, there are a lot of courses. I've mentioned a few websites in the guide that they've linked below. But first thing that comes to my mind is Skillshare. There are so many courses on Skillshare, and there is also this website called Domestika. And even though it's in Spanish, I think you can follow along the subtitles in English. And there's Coursera. My personal favorite is stuff from CalArts. CalArts is one of the best universities when it comes to design. It's in California, so their courses on Coursera are great. Um, yeah, and there's a lot of stuff with YouTube. Honestly, YouTube is just enough. Just get started, and then maybe you can take professional courses.
Also, please mention the software you use for design.
Okay, the one that I use today is Adobe Illustrator, and some people use Procreate, some people use other things. These two are the things that come to my mind. For creating vectors, these two are like the best. But then you have Photoshop, you have XD, you have so many other things for different types of design.
Okay, I think that was helpful enough. So the next question is, how do you select projects to practice your creativity and improve your style and skills? Is practicing on platforms such as Figma, Canva, Photo, etc. enough for a kickstart?
Okay, Canva. um, we call them Canva designers because what they're essentially doing is just putting together stuff that are existing on Canva. That is good enough to a certain extent, but um, for your designs to actually stand out and be out of the ordinary, I would suggest scratch. How do you select projects? How do I select projects? I just look at things I like, and sometimes there'll be discussions on social media about certain things. I'll be like, okay, maybe I can do a project on that. And how do I improve my style and skills? I just practice. I make stuff. I see if I like it. I see what people think about it. I put all of that information together and maybe correct myself a little or just not do it in that style. Yeah.
Okay, so we have next question. How can we make a logo dynamic with fluorescence color on digital platform?
Okay. Um, I think when you work with for fluorescence, I think you need light. You can't really. You can work with neon, I guess, and neon shades are just saturated colors, and they generally work with darker backgrounds. And you can use the same software that I use, I guess.
So we have next question. What is the best possible roadmap according to you for someone who is looking forward to choose his or her career as a designer?
Okay. Um, do those 6 things that I mentioned. After that, uh, I think you can either do two things. You can get a job and learn on the job, or go to design school. You There are a lot of things in India. There's a lot of schools abroad, and even to get into a design school, you need a good portfolio. You need to have your own style, something that makes you unique. You need all of those things to get into school and to get clients. If you're freelancing, you need all of that. To get a job, you need all of that. So um, career as design, I think all three are good options. And after you finish schools, you get so much. After you finish design school, you get a lot of people. You meet new people. You expand your network. So yeah, that is probably something I'd prefer. I'm still in that process. But yeah, these three are like things that I think you can do to have a career.
Okay, that's helpful enough, Neha. So the next question we have from Sakshi is, whatever I do, I just don't feel creative enough. How do you find enough inspiration for the graphic content you make? How do you get those ideas?
If I was a part of a design webinar, this is probably a question I'd post. But yeah, some days I do feel like I have no creativity in my head. But the only way to get inspiration is to go to places where there are tons of creative content. Um, Generally, I head directly to places like Behance. I go to Pinterest, and we have Instagram, our trusty friend Instagram. And I follow a lot of artists, and they constantly post stuff. And all I need to do is to get back that creativity or inspiration is just look at them. And even if you don't feel like it, just mindlessly draw something or work with clay or do something creative to get your creative juices going. And yeah, that's how I get out of the non-creative mood.
So let's take the last question from Gaurav. What are some of the mistakes to avoid, and what are some of the basic concepts one must know while designing?
Something I've noticed among people who started out design with me, they just directly jump into software. I did that too. I learned it the hard way. Um, don't do that. Don't directly just open up Illustrator and expect yourself to start creating beautiful graphics. It it, it depends on how much you've studied about design. I mentioned mastering fundamentals, if you remember. That step many people miss out, and I think that is not a good way to start. I think it should start with pen and paper, and then maybe you can move on to software and concepts that one misses out while designing. I think people look at current trends and they just try to, create those kind of designs. They want to match the trend, but the best works from people come out only when they decide to just put out their ideas, what they feel, no matter what the trend is. So make sure your work reflects you. So I think people miss out on that when they design.
Okay, so these two are really important point for all of us, which we can take away from this. Like mastering the fundamentals is really important, and our design should reflect us. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, Neha, for such an insightful, packed hour for all of us.
My
And we
pleasure.
are so happy that you helped us in gaining a perspective towards this design world. We have shared the feedback, a link to the feedback form in the description, sorry, in the comments, in the chats. So please do fill it out. And I would like to thank all the audience for joining us today and for your patience and presence. Huge thanks to the Web Mentor Webinars team for making this event a great success. Thank you all for hopping in today, and thank you once again, Neha.
Thanks everyone for coming today. Glad you guys could make it.
All right, so we will be concluding
Okay,
the
so we
session.
will be back with another session next week.
Yeah,
So we will be back with another section next week. So stay tuned and do follow our LinkedIn page to stay tuned.
yes. And now it's the time to conclude the session. And once again, the free PDF which Neha has shared with you is down in the comments. It's bit.ly/webmdesign. And thanks a lot, Neha, for sparing some time to share your knowledge with the community, and it
Thanks
really
for
mattered.
having me.
Thank you. Bye bye, guys.
Bye, guys.